Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel Podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in our countdown to our 100th episode, this is our 99th episode.
One more to go.
Holy crap, that is a lot of damn episodes.
That is a lot of episodes.
Only one more away from the big 100, and it's going to be a really special episode, so definitely tune in next week, because this episode is only going to be so-so.
This is going to be a really short episode, I feel like.
Because in this episode, we will be reviewing Justice League Throne of Atlantis, and that was a DC animated film that came out...
2015.
Yeah, 2015. We're reviewing this in our lead up to the Aquaman film that comes out next month.
Right.
And yeah, it was pretty good, but we'll talk about it later on this episode. Before we get into that review, we will be going over the comic book movie news from the past week, which included
one item.
And that was the official full film title for the Birds of Prey film, and it's horrible, and we'll talk about it later. Again, you could check the show notes to skip ahead to whatever chapter you want to. It has the time codes listed there. We want to give a quick shout out to Comedic Pig, or her boyfriend rather, who left us a review on iTunes and gave us a 5-star rating. I want to read his review actually because it's pretty funny. He said, "I stole my girlfriend's phone just to leave a review for this podcast I've been listening to forever. Shout out to Marvelous Joe for repping the superior Marvel brand."
I don't know if I like that review. But no, thank you so much for giving it to us.
Comedic Pig's boyfriend knows what's up. Go Marvel. But yeah, we've been asking for ratings on iTunes, as you guys know, for a while now. If we get to 200, we get to be Rotten Tomatoes critics. It'll be awesome. Please rate us on iTunes. The end.
And once again, you don't have to review us. You could just give us the rating, but reviews are super appreciated.
Yes. Please and thank you very much. All right. Just a reminder that next week, Jonathan and I will be auctioning off the Detective Chimp and Howard the Duck artwork that the artist Shannon V. Sabinter drew for us. They're amazing pieces. They're so cool looking. If you want to bid on these, we'll go ahead and provide the link in our next episode's show notes. And
we'll repost the artwork to our Instagram, just so you can see it right up top.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely, if you have a really geeky friend or family member, hold off on getting them a Christmas present until you see this artwork, because they may really like it.
Yeah,
I would.
Either you'll really like it, or you know somebody that would really like to have Detective Chimp and Howard the Duck on their wall. And all proceeds from this auction will go to the charity Women Helping Women, which focuses on crisis intervention and prevention advocacy for gender-based violence. So it's a really good cause. Definitely check it out. We'll be reminding you guys next week as well. And by the time you hear the next episode, the auction will already be live. So definitely check it out.
Right.
So with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. So a No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, in your opinion, who is the coolest looking villain in a Marvel or DC film?
And coolest looking is quite the subjective term, but we got a lot of great answers, all of whom look very cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mitch Phipps. He gets honorable mention for mentioning Doomsday from Batman vs. Superman. And I'm assuming it's the Doomsday towards the end of his kind of evolution, right before he stabs Superman. Because the beginning cave troll guy, he didn't look that cool.
Right.
But I will say that he progressively did get cooler.
Yeah, Joel Seagrave actually gave the same answer, and he clarified that it was, the later stage Doomsday. But he also gave the answer Loki from his various MCU appearances with the horns.
Yeah, especially when he's wearing the helmet.
Yeah.
Shout out to George Kronitis, who gave the answer of the Joker from The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger.
Yeah, and Barbara also gave the answer the Joker from The Dark Knight.
Yeah. It's surprising, but also really fascinating look for the Joker.
Yeah, I still really like it. I didn't really care too much for it when the first images were released. I think a lot of people were in the same boat, but yes.
It totally suits the performance that he gave.
For sure. And they're even using it for Joaquin Phoenix's role.
Right.
Kind of very similar.
Yeah, very inspired by that. Shout out to Ken Johnson, who gave the answer Killmonger. And yeah, Michael B. Jordan looked badass as shit in that movie, with all the scarification all over his body and his sweet-ass hair. He was cool. And I liked his armor, too. Well, not armor, but it was like body armor. The suit that he wore when he first went into Wakanda?
Yeah.
It was pretty damn sweet. I think he looked pretty cool. That was a great answer. Another shout out to Tim Brown, who gave the answer Thanos with his armor.
I do like him a lot more with the armor than without.
I would agree with that.
I kind of wish he would have kept the armor throughout the whole movie.
A lot of the concept art for the next Avengers movie, Avengers 4, shows him wearing his armor, so I think he's going to wear it a lot more in that movie, I think. But I like the design that they gave him. It was very cool looking. Like, they could have gone, like, I saw concept art where he looked a lot more priestly, and some art where he looked a lot more like a warrior, barbarian kind of type.
Yeah.
But this kind of like regal, kingly approach, just like real sleek, it was a good look for him. I liked it a lot.
And the final honorable mention goes to Caleb Albers for his answer of the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, and apparently Caleb works on jets, so he was really impressed with the design of the Vulture's wingsuit and how they incorporated a lot of jet components within his flight suit.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like how he wore the bomber jacket, because like the bomber jackets, they have kind of like those fluffy collars.
Yeah.
But for the Spider-Man Homecoming, they turned it into like feathers,
Yeah.
It was just a great design. That was a great answer. Good job, Caleb. But the winner of this week's Dynamic Duel No Prize is Shane Thomas, who kind of did the shotgun approach by giving 3 different answers, which we don't typically recommend. Usually if you give a whole bunch of answers, we usually just pick our favorite one. But in this case, he chose 3 great ones, which were Hela from Thor Ragnarok. I thought she had a fantastic look. It would have been a look that was really hard to translate to film, but they pulled it off perfectly.
Yeah, the MCU can get away with anything now.
Shane also mentioned Catwoman,
which was my favorite answer from Batman Returns, not from her standalone Halle Berry film. From Batman Returns. I guess she was in The Dark Knight Rises too. But no, maybe I just like Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't know. But she looked really awesome in that suit.
Yeah.
It was just like really sleek and shiny and just awesome.
Yeah, had a cool texture to it. And Shane also gave the answer of the Winter Soldier with the mask on. And as far as cool looking supervillains go, I have to hand it to the Winter Soldier. That was my personal favorite answer because he was so scary and intimidating and just badass. The music that accompanied him was just amazing and made him seem very fierce and scary. I loved it. So congrats to Shane Thomas for your fantastic answers, and congrats again for winning this week's No Prize.
On to the news. So last week, as I was scrolling through my Instagram feed, I saw a post from Margot Robbie. It was a photo of the front page of the Birds of Prey script, in which she had handwritten a subtitle underneath the title, and it was Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Oh, that's cute. Okay. I kept scrolling. And then later on in my news feeds, I saw news articles saying this was the official title of the Birds of Prey film.
Gross.
And I was like, no. You guys. This is just a joke. This is just a joke. But then the trades started reporting on it. And the Hollywood Reporter's Aaron Couch, who's the editor of the trades Heat Vision blog that focuses on superhero news, reported that he confirmed the title with Warner Brothers. So yes, that is the official title of the Birds of Prey film.
What a gross ass title. Why? Like, this isn't a sequel or anything. You don't necessarily need a subtitle. Let's work on introducing the concept of Birds of Prey before we start getting into these wacky Willy Wonka-esque subtitles.
I can't tell if it's in character for Harley Quinn or not.
I don't think it is.
Like, I don't see her using the word fantabulous.
You don't?
No.
Why?
I don't know.
To me, it seems like very fantastical and whimsical. And while I would certainly describe Harley Quinn as whimsical, I'm not quite sure that she's this level of whimsical,
Right.
And I'm wondering, are they adding this subtitle to the Birds of Prey film because they're afraid that they won't be able to sell the movie on the title alone and that they have to include the name Harley Quinn in there to really get butts and seats?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I think they're trying to put Harley Quinn in the title of the film. I also think they're trying to somehow separate Harley Quinn from the Birds of Prey, or at least that's my hope. This is essentially Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn.
Okay, yeah, I almost think that would be a better title if it was just Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn. Kind of like how they had the Batman and Harley Quinn movie, I mean, you could do that. But like, it's just too long. It's too long. How am I supposed to write that out, like in the show notes and everything like that when it comes time to review?
Or like on the
I'm not going
review
to want
badge.
To. Right, exactly. It's not going to fit in our review badge.
I mean, we had to abbreviate Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. So
yeah, that was too long too.
Yeah.
I feel like a whiny baby right now, but if you can't tell, I'm not a fan. Like, does this title even appeal to fans of Harley Quinn? Do you think?
It doesn't appeal to me, and I'm a fan of Harley Quinn. I'm still looking forward to this film. They just finished rounding out the cast. They just cast Cassandra Cain.
Right, yeah. She looked like she was only like 8 years old. And I guess I was expecting something more like the 12 to 14 range.
Yeah, her name is Ella J. Bosco. Mm-hmm. And she is super young. Super different from what I was expecting, but that's not a bad thing.
I mean, yeah, just because she's young doesn't mean she won't be a badass.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what Cassandra Cain needs to be. That's what she is. And yeah, you can learn more about Cassandra Cain if you don't know who she is in our Batgirl versus X-23 episode in which those two fought each other.
That was a great episode.
That was a fun one. I liked that one.
But there's not much more to say about this news other than what the heck.
I kind of want to see what the logo treatment looks like.
Oh gosh.
Like, how do you write this all out graphically without it looking like just like a mess on the screen?
Just use Margot Robbie's handwriting.
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, no one's actually going to call it by its full name. Everyone's going to refer to it as Birds of Prey.
I refuse. I'm only calling it Birds of Prey.
Henceforth, we are only calling it Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Every time.
Yeah, that'll show them. They'll realize how ridiculous the title is.
But I think that's basically all there is to say about this, and that's all the news there is as well. Really slow news week. Nothing happened during Thanksgiving. There was supposed to be an Avengers trailer.
Yeah.
But that never happened.
Yeah, that was lame.
So, let's move on to the Justice League Throne of Atlantis review. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, Justice League Throne of Atlantis came out in 2015. You mentioned earlier that you thought this film was good.
I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was bad. I'm not passionate about this film one way or the other. So whatever you have to say with it, I'll probably be like, yeah. Whether it's good or bad.
I thought this film was very, very meh.
Yeah.
You know, it was the sequel to Justice League War, which was really good. I really liked that. You know, Justice League War was based on the comic book storyline written by Jeff Johns that launched the New 52. And this one was also based on an early New 52 storyline, also written by Jeff Johns, which I thought was really well done. With Justice League War being good, and the comic storyline being good, and with the Aquaman movie coming up, I was excited to watch this film. And maybe I was too excited, because by the time the film ended, I was pretty bored. Yeah. I was like, what? Okay.
I mean, with the Aquaman movie coming out, I think if you're going to watch anything as a primer, you could do worse than this movie. Although the film doesn't nearly focus on Aquaman as much as I thought it would. It's very much a Justice League film. Like, he really shares his screen time with them.
Yeah.
I think it was a good way to introduce the character to people who may still think of Aquaman as a cheesy superhero, because he certainly wasn't cheesy in this one, and they did demonstrate the use of his powers pretty well, I thought. So you could do worse. I mean, I would definitely recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. And if you haven't seen it, probably don't listen to this review because we're gonna give away spoilers. But you know, if you're not planning on seeing it, then may as well just continue listening.
I mean, the film wasn't bad. No. The animation wasn't as good as Justice League War, but also wasn't as bad as Suicide Squad Hell to Pay.
Yeah.
The storyline, you know, it was an adequate introduction to Aquaman, as you mentioned, but it was also missing a lot of the substance and stakes of Jeff Johns' comic.
Yeah, I guess the stakes were Earth, I guess. Was Ocean Master trying to destroy all of Earth? Or was he just trying to, like, conquer one coastal city? Metropolis, I guess?
It was Boston.
Boston? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean,
where was he going to go from there, though?
He did the same thing in the comic. He took over Boston at the end.
Oh, really?
Ultimately, this is one of those cases where the book was better. And I wonder if I would have liked this movie more if I hadn't read the comic. I think the one big thing that the comic had going for it that the movie didn't is that the comic didn't have to serve as an origin story for Aquaman. I was kind of surprised that this movie was an origin story, though I probably shouldn't have been. I mean, Aquaman wasn't introduced in Justice League War, but I keep forgetting that these animated films are all tied together.
Yeah, it's one universe.
Yeah, like without the overarching storyline like the MCU has with like the Infinity Stones, it's sometimes hard to like just not simply view these as standalone films. And part of me wishes this was a standalone Aquaman film, like rather than a team film.
That was my thought also after watching the movie. Like, I would have probably preferred more Aquaman and less Justice League.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, Batman gets his own animated films.
Yeah, so does Superman.
Not really. He had the death of Superman, but the Justice League was in that.
Right, that's true. But in the past, Superman has had his own films.
True. Yeah. I think Aquaman should have probably been introduced in Justice League War instead of Shazam. It's not any more complicated to tell Aquaman's origin than it is Shazam's.
Right.
They're both pretty complicated.
Why did they introduce Shazam in Justice League War?
That's a good question. I have no idea. It should have been Aquaman.
Is it because they
really.
were probably saving Aquaman for this film?
They probably had that intention, but I think that was a mistake. Because ultimately this had to be a team film, and we were left with like a kind of strange arc where the members of the Justice League were reluctant to be a team and ultimately had to realize that they needed to schedule weekly meetings. Like that was the Justice League arc in this film. You know, you had your like sub-threads that involved like Batman and Green Lantern not liking each other, or like Superman and Wonder Woman with their cold romance, or Shazam and Cyborg like broing it up. I would have rather like sacrificed all of that for some better character development for like Orm, you know?
Yes. Yeah, Orm was pretty one note. It's kind of hard to see where he's coming from, other than perhaps his loyalty to his father, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Let's get into the character breakdown.
Okay.
So starting with Aquaman, Matt Latner, who did his voice, like wasn't terrible. He had this kind of like surfer quality to it, but it was also kind of commanding when it needed to be.
I thought he did a fine job.
Yeah.
I like the design of the character. I thought that stood
Yeah.
out more to me than the voice work.
Yeah, I actually really liked Aquaman's character design in this film. He just looks like sleek. And so did Mira.
I like his mutton chops.
Yeah.
Makes me want to grow some.
Everyone in this film looked cool, I think, except for Ocean Master. His costume was like a pre-New 52 design with that like red Manta logo on his chest. And his mask made him look like he had no nose.
His mask reminded me of like a dopey Electro. Like it didn't look like cool Ocean Master to me. It looked like dopey Ocean Master.
No, in the comics, Ocean Master wears like a purple and black version of Aquaman's orange and green. But he also has like a cape and a cooler looking like silver mask.
Yeah.
I really like the New 52 version.
Yeah.
But back to Aquaman, like I think the way the character was written makes me really glad that Jason Momoa is injecting some of his own personality into the Aquaman in live action.
Because you think there wasn't much personality there?
No, absolutely not. Like Aquaman in this film, it was kind of aqua boring.
Did you write that down?
You can't say super boring because he's not Superman. You know, but he was super reactionary in the beginning. And when he did act, it kind of came out of nowhere. Like, whoa, when did you learn how to do that? Or,
yeah, where did he learn how to be such a good fighter?
yeah, how did you come to accept that so easily? You have a guy who's like getting drunk in a bar, and within 24 hours, he's rallying Atlantean soldiers to accept him as their king.
Right.
You have a guy who like just meets the Justice League for the first time and isn't surprised that Superman knows who he is or that he's half Atlantean. And you have a guy who's like visiting Atlantis for the first time in his life, and the next moment he's like channeling magic from a trident. He's not even caring. And like to disable magical entrapments and command sea life, all of which he's perfectly fine with.
Yeah, they kind of threw him in the deep end, as it were, and he did just fine.
Yeah.
And I guess that's not the greatest metaphor because he is Aquaman and knows how to swim really well. But yeah, he kind of took to his new circumstances a little bit too easily.
For sure.
For someone who had never been, exposed to any of that before.
And I'm honestly not even sure like what his arc was. That like he lost his family but found a new one, maybe? Like he rejected his brother really easily.
Well, his brother did kill his mom, so...
Yeah, but maybe his mom was a horrible person. He didn't know that. Maybe she deserved to die.
Yeah, he didn't really know much about her. Well, Mara was kind of, I guess, talking her up a little bit.
That's true.
She was like, put this armor on. She's going to love you, blah, 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 blah. And he did see his mom one time as a kid, I guess, when he was out there swimming in the middle of the ocean and she came to visit him.
Yeah,
so I think he had somewhat of an emotional attachment to this person. However, it may have been more of an idealized kind of perspective.
Yeah, let's jump to Queen Atlanta real quick.
Okay.
Like, I kind of hated how every scene with her resulted in her shoving people around with the force of her trident. It's like, no wonder your son hates you. How about you talk to him, and explain things instead of getting physical right away?
Yeah, because like Orm would be like, "Mom, we got to go to war," and she's like, "No, peace." And he's like, "Screw you, Mom." And then she's like, "Be gone," and she'll blast him. And that, like, I swear that happened in like 3 separate scenes.
Exactly. Yeah. I also thought it was kind of weird to see her stalking her surface family. When she did visit, like, Arthur as a child, It's like, talk to them, explain things, share custody, something. Come on.
Yeah, she was trying to be mysterious just for why.
Exactly.
Because everyone was aware that the kid existed. It
Right.
seemed like Orm knew, Mira knew,
Black Manta knew.
Black Manta knew, everybody knew. Dr. Shin knew. Why was Dr. Shin in this movie, though?
Because they just had to toss him in there.
It made no sense because he served no purpose whatsoever.
No, not really. Let's move on to Orm. So Orm was voiced by Sam Witwer, who normally I'm like, cool, Sam Witwer. But I thought Orm's voice was especially annoying in this film.
I don't know who that is.
He's like a big Star Wars voice. Did you ever play like Star Wars The Force Unleashed?
Nope.
Okay, never mind. You don't know who he is. But so, one thing I really liked about Jeff Johns' Throne of Atlantis story arc in the comics was that it subverted the expectations of longtime DC fans. Mm-hmm. It was a mystery as to why the U.S. Navy fired upon Atlantis. And as readers, we just assumed it was Ocean Master because he's the bad guy. But no, not the New 52 Ocean Master. Not exactly. He's more complex and real than that. In the comics, he was a good man and a good brother who like willingly gave up the throne when Arthur showed up in Atlantis, and honorably retook the throne at Arthur's request when he abdicated it. He attacked the surface world to protect his people, and he was imprisoned sympathetically as a sacrificial political move. And you understood from that point why Orm would have had a grudge against his brother. And you get none of that in this film.
Oh, that is a much better story.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that the surface world attacked Atlantis, so Orm retaliated and was punished for it, even though his actions were entirely justified in the comics.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
What happened was...
And here he's just a dick for the sake of being a dick.
In this film, Orm wants to destroy the surface world because he's power hungry, and he's an asshole son. And that's his whole thing. And as it turns out, he was manipulated by Black Manta the whole time. He was like an incredibly weak villain.
Yeah, he was. Black Manta was the one that was pulling all the strings in the end. And while the conclusion of his arc in this film was pretty satisfying at the hands of that giant like megalodon shark, I can't say that I was too impressed with anything else that he did in this.
No. Black Manta is like a fascinating villain in the comics. He and Aquaman hate each other because they essentially killed each other's fathers. Mm-hmm. It's pure, like pure powerful hate that drives Manta. Mm-hmm. But in this film, it's power that drives him, I guess.
Oh, he wants to plunder Atlantis' riches or something like that. But
he wanted to be king. I mean, it's the same motivation as Orm's.
Uh-huh.
We don't learn why Black Manta is bad in this film until he delivers that throwaway line during the final fight about manipulating Orm and setting him up for failure so that he could take the throne. Uh-huh. And then he's somewhat unceremoniously taken out by that shark.
I liked that, though.
You thought that was cool. That was actually taken from a scene from the first Justice League storyline in the New 52 where Aquaman did the same thing to a parademon. Oh, really? But in that scene, there were like 50 sharks. Oh, so nice. It was way cooler in the comic.
Huh. I just like how the shark got Black Manta while he was like in mid-sentence, kind of. I thought that was pretty funny. But now that I'm thinking about it, if I were Black Manta and I knew that I was setting Orm up for failure to, be apprehended by the surface world's military force or whatever, I would not have been present during that fight.
No, yeah, you're right.
Because the chances were that I as well would be caught.
Yeah, Black Manta's smarter than that,
Right.
I was surprised to see that he was an Atlantean military commander. It was like our Aquaman movie script, which you can learn more about if you subscribe to our Patreon. Like, seeing that idea realized kind of made me realize that it's not a good angle for the character.
No, he needs to be kind of like on his own.
Yeah.
Although it looks like that's what they're doing for the movie.
But in the trailers, he seems more like he's hired by Orm. Okay. And he's given troops to work with.
Okay.
Like, because in the comics, he is a mercenary,
Right.
But in this film, as a military commander, I was like, Black Manta is an Atlantean? Who came up with that shitty idea? Oh, wait.
We did.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait. Black Manta was an Atlantean in this movie?
Yeah.
What?
Wasn't he? He wasn't he?
I didn't think he was. No, I thought he was just a human that was working with Orm.
He was like breathing underwater.
No, he with his mask on.
I was under the impression that he was Atlantean.
I don't think
because otherwise, how would Orm have any justification for wanting to say, "Hey, we can't work with the surface. We have to destroy them," when his right-hand man is of the surface?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Exactly. I think he was Atlantean in this film.
Really?
Yeah.
Total mind blow.
Yeah. I feel like I've been harping on this film for too long. Let's talk about Mira. I did not hate the adaptation of making Mira a royal bodyguard. Like, you understood right away how fierce and capable she has to be in that position.
Yeah. And the feats that she was able to pull off with her hard water constructs were pretty badass.
It definitely doesn't hurt that we see her handle herself pretty well in battle.
She was violent.
She was. Like, Arthur was the one who needed rescuing by her when he was attacked in his lighthouse. And she's such a badass, just slicing through rocks and bodies. It was crazy.
Yeah, she was chopping dudes in half.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I think it's also easier to comprehend the emotions that she's feeling when they learn of Queen Atlanta's death.
Yeah.
Like, those two actually had a relationship as opposed to Arthur, who really didn't know his mom.
Right.
Let's move on to the Justice League. You know, as far as they go, Cyborg was kind of the standout character, just like he was in Justice League War.
He definitely had the most screen time.
Yeah, he did. It was interesting to see him still coming to terms with being mostly machine, and how he was becoming more and more machine while trying to maintain some kind of human connection with that Star Labs scientist girl.
Yeah, I never saw the previous movie, so I wasn't sure how far along he was in his, journey of acceptance or whatever.
Yeah.
But it seems, he's still coming to terms with it. He can do a lot of cool shit, though. I think they utilize the character very well, and I understand why Jeff Johns and the New 52 writers decided to make him a mainstay in the Justice League over someone like Martian Manhunter, who's very much kind of a duplicate of Superman in most cases. He's definitely his own character with like telepathy and things like that, but Cyborg, I think, brings a lot of new different things to the table.
Yeah, like when he's investigating the sub and finds that the nuclear missiles are missing. That was a cool scene. It's always cool to see like his power set in action, like whether he's boom tubing or like interfacing with technology and projecting holographic simulations. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was the one that saved the day with his holographic projection of the recording that he had of what Orm said about Queen Atlanta.
Yeah, or Batman. Or I guess you could say...
You had to include Batman somehow.
Yeah. Batman was as brooding as ever in this film, and I actually like how he thinks outside of the box. You know, like when he was scolding Green Lantern for not getting information from the Scarecrow thugs, or like when he again emphasized the importance of information during the end battle, that ended up resulting, I think, in the Atlantean army turning on Ocean Master.
Right.
I don't really care for the romantic relationship between Superman and Wonder Woman.
It's kind of weird. I don't know how many movies there are between this film and Death of Superman, but I would imagine that you would need a lot of them to really set up the situation where he leaves Wonder Woman and then starts dating Lois, and then they actually develop a relationship to make that have any sort of meaning within that Death of Superman film.
Yeah, I don't know how many films there were exactly, but there's only a certain number of Justice League films. Like, I think they had a Teen Titans film. I think they had, more Batman films. But not a lot of time, I don't think, to develop the relationship between Superman and Wonder Woman. This may have been it.
In what movie do Superman and Wonder Woman break up?
Exactly.
Is what I'm wondering.
They kind of mentioned it in The Death of Superman, how they broke up. Maybe that was just it. You just learned it that way.
Oh, okay.
But I especially think their relationship is a problem in this film because both Lois Lane and Steve Trevor make appearances. So I'm just always rooting for those relationships.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about Steve Trevor. He had a goatee. That was weird.
Yeah, he was at the very beginning of the film. He wasn't in the film for very long.
Yeah.
Just almost a cameo kind of role.
Right.
And for The Flash and Shazam, I guess they were in this film. Not much more to say.
Shazam was voiced by Sean Astin.
Yeah,
which I thought was kind of like a brilliant piece of casting, actually. Voice casting.
Yeah, that is cool. I liked that a lot.
I wanted to see more of Shazam, actually. It's weird because he didn't participate in a lot of the underwater scenes, I guess because he couldn't breathe underwater, hence why he had to wear breathing apparatus when he was in Atlantis.
Right.
But Superman was able to breathe and speak underwater.
So was Wonder Woman.
Yeah. How? Explain that to me.
I can't.
It bothered me the entire movie. I know Superman can go underwater for extended periods of time and go deep underwater because of his dense Kryptonian physiology and the fact that he has super condensed breath, so he can hold his breath for an extended period of time.
But he shouldn't be able to talk.
But he shouldn't be able to open his mouth and breathe and talk. Yeah, and everything like that.
He's talking like this, and this is him when he's talking underwater.
Just exhaling.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was so weird.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the story highlights. So the film starts off in a submarine that's taken out by Atlantean soldiers near the Marianas Trench. Horrible way to go. The worst way to go.
I would hate to die in a submarine.
It's my two greatest fears, being trapped in tight spaces and drowning.
Yeah. If I saw a wave coming at me when I was in a submarine, I'd be like, fuck me, no! And I just commit Harry Carey right there.
Jeez. A wave?
A rushing wave of water. flooding the submarine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Cyborg investigated that sub and found that the nuclear missiles were missing.
Whatever happened with those missiles? I don't remember.
They were used on Atlantis by Black Manta. He cloaked his Manta ship to be like a U.S. naval submarine.
Yeah, that's
then
right.
Fired those.
I didn't know he
on.
fired atomic missiles. I thought it was just like a regular missile attack. But I guess
they may have just been normal missiles, like torpedoes. But I thought they were saying like nuclear missiles.
The explosion was pretty big.
It was.
And you did see a lot of people being like atomized in like the super violent way.
It was very like T2.
Yeah.
But before that, we meet a drunk and depressed Arthur Curry, who just buried his father and is talking to a lobster.
I kind of liked that part, actually.
It wasn't bad.
It was an interesting way to introduce the character. I don't think they capitalized on it. Like, that was kind of the most personality that he ever showed.
It's true. Yeah.
And I guess, like, it's a way to introduce the character, quote, petting the puppy, as it were,
right.
Where, like, you sympathize with this character who's being kind to wildlife and stuff like that, wanting to rescue the lobster from the tank that it's in at the restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah, again, they never did anything with it, so.
To me, that was like the most Jason Momoa Aquaman was in this film, I think.
With the bar
Just
fight?
like at the bar, yeah, exactly. It looked like he was taking a beating from that group of guys, and I was like, what? Aquaman could totally handle these guys. But apparently it was all a ruse, because Aquaman's skin shatters a knife. And that was actually kind of cool. But I was also like, so was it an act before that?
No, he just isn't a very good fighter.
Well, that doesn't make sense later on than when he is a good fighter.
Right. Yeah.
There are quite a few scenes in this movie where, like, he just gets, like, knocked to the ground and a circle of guys are just, like, attacking him. He just, like, stands up and is like, ah! And they all explode off of him.
That's one of his superpowers, is the super comeback.
So after that, the Justice League tracked down Atlantis expert Dr. Stephen Shin and learned from his notes about Arthur Curry. By this time, Dr. Stephen Shin is already dead. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Mira saves Arthur from the Atlantean soldiers and gives him Atlantean armor, which is like kingly armor.
Yeah. His father's armor.
Yeah, which like he strips down to like make the Aquaman suit, which again, really cool design. Really liked it.
This was a good moment, I think. I mean, it was kind of funny how he just kind of put on the armor. It was like, check me out, I'm wearing this armor now. But it was a very real kind of reaction where he was like, you know what? I can't wear this. This is all too much. I gotta like go think about everything that you just told me.
Exactly.
I thought that was a very real moment for the character. That was a standout. But again, they didn't really do anything with it because by the next scene, he had already accepted everything.
Yeah.
And you could say that maybe like it was the rage over his mother's death that kind of propelled his motivation to become the new king of Atlantis. But it all happened pretty damn quick.
Well, yeah, I mean, the next scene is him and Mira getting attacked on the surface by the trench. And they're helped by the Justice League, and they all decide to visit Atlantis together.
I thought that was a pretty cool scene, though. I always like the Justice League fight scenes where they're all kind of fighting within close proximity. Because I like this fight scene more than the end battle, actually. Because by the end battle, the entire Justice League were kind of all separated.
Yeah.
And they were all fighting individually.
Yeah.
But the teamwork aspect is something that is always cool to see.
It's an important part of a team film, for sure.
Right.
So while they're talking, meanwhile, underwater, Orm and Black Manta learn that their plan failed, and they kill Queen Atlanta, which was cold-blooded.
It was pretty hardcore. We were watching this movie with your daughters, and you had to close their eyes so many times in this movie. I mean, it was by far the most tame DC animated film that I think we've reviewed thus far. Like, it certainly wasn't nearly as bad as Constantine, City of Demons, or Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay.
No.
But there were some pretty bloody parts.
There was, yeah. They definitely made use of the PG-13 rating here. Ocean Master confesses to killing the Queen and traps the Justice League in these like body snatcher pods, which Aquaman somehow manages to break free from and save the others before they could be eaten by this giant like trench monster.
And we're not clear how he was able to escape, but I guess the rationalization is that since these like cocoon pods that Orm traps them in were created through the magic of the trident, that since Aquaman has a connection to the power of the trident because he has royal blood, he was able to manipulate the cocoon that he was in and destroy it.
Oh, is that the rationale? I guess that makes sense. Maybe. I didn't get that at the time when I was watching it. I was like, what? And then even when Green Lantern was like, how did you do that? He was like, because I'm royalty.
Because the magic of the trident.
Yeah. I'm like, but you don't have the trident.
Right.
I don't know.
Does that mean like anything that Orm does, like if he shoots out like an electrical blast or something like that, is Aquaman able to influence that magic as well from a distance?
Exactly.
And vice versa. Because like when Aquaman later gains the trident, is now Orm going to be able to manipulate that magic as well just because he has royal blood also?
That's a great question. But it was like also during this scene when he gains his ability to communicate with sea life. And he took to that, again, really well.
I don't think he just gained it at that point.
That's the first time we saw him use it.
But he was talking to the lobster at the beginning.
Yeah, but he wasn't like talking.
He was talking.
He was just like lonely. He was drunk.
No, he was actually talking to that lobster.
I don't think he was.
Pretty sure he was.
I don't think he was. Because Aquaman doesn't actually like talk with fish. Like fish don't have brains complex enough to like communicate and use words. You know,
sometimes they do in the comics.
He mentally compels them.
Yeah, but like his telepathic bond with aquatic life, I always saw as kind of like an exchange of emotions as well as information. So I think he was bonding. I think he was using his powers on that lobster.
Well, if he was, it wasn't depicted in the same way as it was during this scene.
Well, it's because he wasn't underwater, so he wasn't able to shoot out his, his like sonar brain waves kind of thing.
I don't know. Agree to disagree. So Ocean Master summons a massive tidal wave that does nothing.
I know, that was so lame. It was like a huge ass tidal wave, like stuff from my nightmares, and it was about to destroy the city. And Shazam was like, "How are we going to evacuate an entire city?" And Batman was like, "We aren't. A lot of people are going to die."
Exactly.
And so they go over there, and then all of a sudden the wave just stops.
In the comics, the tidal wave actually does flood like a few major coastal cities, including Metropolis, including Gotham, and people do die. Not in this film. I couldn't believe it when it just stopped. I was like, what?
What's the purpose of creating that huge threat only to stop that huge threat, invade the city, and try to destroy it anyway? You could destroy it so much easier with a tidal wave than you could by walking up onto the shore and just zapping everybody with your magic stick.
Exactly. Like an Atlantean army would not take a city on foot. They are swimmers. You know? It makes zero sense. Zero sense. They were just using it to like announce their arrival, which is again another bad war tactic. Don't do that.
Right.
Horrible. So Ocean Master manages to defeat the entire Justice League on his own, except for Arthur. Which, how? Why? Like Arthur didn't do anything Superman didn't think of.
Right.
He like just charged him and punched him.
Right. That's what I was thinking, because like granted Superman, is vulnerable to magic and everything like that, but it's not like Aquaman is stronger than Superman against Orm.
Right. Or even faster than Superman. He's slower than Superman.
It's not like Aquaman is more durable to magic than Superman. I don't think he is.
I think he is a little bit.
Oh, is he? In the comics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Aquaman gets the upper hand pretty easily. Mm-hmm. And then it's broadcast that Orm killed his mother, and Aquaman convinces the Atlantean army to accept him as king, since, he's of two worlds and can be the bridge of peace between Atlantis and the surface.
Right. Now that the surface world is aware of Atlantis' existence.
Right.
He might make the perfect ambassador for both worlds.
Exactly. So Aquaman is crowned king, and he joins the Justice League, and after the credits, Lex Luthor approaches an incarcerated Orm with a proposition. I'm assuming it's like to form the Legion of Doom or the Injustice Gang, but I don't think they followed up on that in any other animated film yet.
We do see Black Manta later on in
Suicide
Squad Hell to Pay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that might have something to do with it, but maybe not.
Yeah, me too. Like, you would think that, like, instead of Lex Luthor, it would have been Amanda Waller, and instead of Orm, it would have been Black Manta.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's the entire film.
While they're playing the credits, though, they kind of, like, build on Mira's and Aquaman's relationship, because it ends with Mira and Aquaman like charging this army of trench characters.
Yeah.
But then the movie just ends, and like we get like these kind of like screenshots of the battle.
It's like a slideshow.
Yeah, slideshow of them fighting side by side, and they're like having fun. It's like it's a good time, and then all of a sudden like they're making out, and I'm like, is this still during the battle? What is happening? It's kind of weird.
They like accidentally touched hands as they were fighting. They're like hee hee hee. And then one thing led to another, It led up to Aqua Baby.
Oh, that's right. There was an Aqua Baby in the comics, huh?
Yeah.
It
was their kid.
But I think we made fun of this movie a lot. But overall, I still kind of found it entertaining.
Like, honestly, I like the trailers for the Aquaman movie way more than I liked this animated film. It was middle of the road. It was exactly middle of the road, which is why I'm giving it 2.5 stars, half of a perfect rating.
Yeah, right in the middle. I think the characters were shallow as hell. The bad guy's motivations were lame, and his execution of them were even worse.
Yeah.
But what it did have going for it was, I think, showing the heroes in action, showing them use their powers in cool different ways.
Yeah, like with Green Lantern, when he was just like vacuuming up the Atlantean soldiers. You know? It's always cool to see things like that outside of the comics, just like moving, you know?
Right.
So, do you agree with the 2.5 rating?
Yeah, I was like leaning towards 3, but the more that we talk about it, I think you convinced me that it's probably 2.5. I would still recommend seeing it if you're a fan of Aquaman or if you're looking for something Aquaman related to watch in preparation for the upcoming live action film, for sure.
Yeah, I guess I would still recommend it.
There are worse ways to spend a couple of hours.
Honestly, even though we rated like Suicide Squad Hell to Pay higher than this, and I never thought we would rate anything lower than that.
Yeah.
I think I would still recommend this over that, just because it's a little easier to digest, you know? If you're just looking for like a fun time with some cool action, this is your film.
Definitely, yeah.
It's like a Marvel movie, you know?
No, fuck you. Marvel's way better than this. Not their animated films, I'll give you that. But yeah, I think that does it for this review, and that does it for this episode. The next time you hear from us, it is going to be our 100th episodes. We'll have done 100 episodes of this show. Yeah, that's like a lot of work that we've put into this. It's going to be worth it because I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this next episode. Again, it's still going to be a surprise, but definitely go ahead and tune into us next week. In the meantime, please rate, review, share, and subscribe this show, again, specifically on the iTunes or Apple Podcasts platform. If you're on that, go ahead and visit dynamicduel.com, where you can find links to all of our social media accounts, including Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you're on Instagram, you may get a sneak peek of the 100th episode that is to come later on this week.
We always give sneak peeks of our upcoming episodes, so.
Yeah. On our website, dynamicduel.com, you can also find a link to our merch store where you can buy t-shirts and mugs and pillows and banners of all the artwork that we've done for our Dynamic Duel No Prizes, as well as some additional art that Jonathan has also created. It's pretty damn cool. Check it out for yourself. For those of you guys who are patrons, be sure to look forward to getting a new blooper episode released at the 1st of December.
On Patreon.
It's only $2 a month if you guys want to be patrons of ours, and you could do so by visiting patreon.com/dynamicduel, and you'll get access to those blooper episodes as well.
And the more patrons that we get, the more content we plan on developing.
Correct. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Up and away.
True believers.